And that's how they got here. Then this was a relative of mine, but then my granddad came in 1859. He came here from Paris, Kentucky. You've heard of Kentucky, and he was born in Paris, Kentucky, and he came here in 1859 and stayed a year. Then he went back to Kentucky and he joined in the Civil War. You've heard of the Civil War?
Yeah.
And then after the Civil War ended, he got married and came back to Elkhart. You all know where Elkhart is. In 1872. And on my mother's side of the family, they came to, you've heard of Pasquina, have you, all of you?
No.
West of Corning, it's out west of Corning. It's for the mountain, he knows where Pasquina is.
I think I've been there.
You never been there? None of you probably. Well, that's where I live, close to Pasquina. That's where my mother's side of the family came in the 1850s, and they homesteaded there. And then my dad met my mother in Newville. Y'all know where Newville probably. Not much there. But that's where they met. And then my dad came to Pasquina and they lived there the rest of their life. Then the next question, when did your family settle in the area? I already told you that. How did they come to the area? Well, the first of them came in a covered wagon. As I said, in 1849 they came from Kentucky with covered wagons. They were about 5 months coming to California. It took a long time. Then the next question, they asked if there was any buildings standing that the first one built. Yes, there's 2 barns still standing where both sides of my family first settled. And they asked, where is your ancestors buried? They're buried at Pasquina, Newville, and Elkhart, all 3 places. And what was it like to live on a farm? Well, it was good to live on the farm. You got to learn about the animals and how to raise them and what to feed them and how to get along with them, like the horses and the mules and all the different things. And go out in the hills and see the wild rabbits and deer and the things that were there, quail and squirrels. It was good to run around as a boy out on a rag. What crops were grown? Well, they grew barley and wheat and oats, and we had big gardens. Every year we'd plant a garden with different vegetables in it. Did you ever use horses or mules? Yeah, we use horses and mules every day. We went to, when I first started school, about 2 kids' age, we went to school in a wagon and 2 mules. And then after a little while, I rode a horse. The last 4 years of school, I rode a horse to school. You had to tie it in a barn. You had to have a rain clothes. Sometimes it was raining. It got wet. What chores did you have? Well, and there was no electricity where we lived, so we had to get wood in every night. About your age, my dad had had the wood shop. We'd have to bring it in close to the porch, so my mother could get it and put it in the stove, and then in the stove to heat the house, we had to have wood because there wasn't no electricity. You used all, you know what a kerosene light is. You've seen those. You put a match on, light a wick, and white lights weren't very good. Then, did you help at harvest time? Yeah, I helped at harvest time. We harvested grain and put up hay. We cut the hay with 2 mules. You've seen the old mowing machines probably. They're sickle. You cut the hay and then you had to rake it, and then you hauled it and loose hay and put in the barn. And you harvested the grain. also with a harvester, had to sow the sacks. And did your farm use Stony Creek water? Well, my grandfolks on my dad's side took water out of Stony Creek and Elk Creek. Yes, on that one. What were the early Indians like? Well, I don't know what year they're talking about, but when I was your age, I went to school with the Indian kids. There was a reservation at Pasquina where the Indians were. And a lot of them went to the school, the same school that I went to. There was Indian kids there every day. So I got to know them pretty well, the Indians. Do you have a favorite memory of your school days? Well, I just have to say getting out at 4 o'clock was the best part. Probably for you kids too, huh? What time do you get out?
2:35.
Huh?
2:35.
2:35.
You know exactly, don't you?
We used to have to stay till 4 o'clock. It was 9 till 4. That was it. Yeah, you had to stay till 4 o'clock. And then you talked about, did you ever see the Indian shelters and their food and clothing? Well, they wore about the same clothing as we did when we went to school. And their food, they ate rabbits, mostly the rabbits and the deer and the fish is what they ate. And then they had gardens and fruit trees is what they lived off from. And then, did you have a favorite teacher? Well, I'd say yes, because she's still alive. She's 93 years old now, and I've known her since I was probably your age, 12 or 13. How old are you?
10.
10? Well, I went to school out in the 7th and 8th grade to her, and I still know her. I still see her, so I'd say she was probably one of the favorites. How often did you come to town? Well, we didn't have no car at first, so I don't know what town. Pasquina was a little town, but as far as Corning, we used to go to Corning once in a while, maybe once a month with a buggy and 2 mules if they needed to buy quite a bit of stuff. But Pasquina had most of the stuff in the little store, so we didn't go. I don't know how big a town they're talking about. Did you have a favorite store that you liked? Well, I liked the store. There was 3 stores in Pasquina, and I went down. I ride a horse from the school, just maybe a quarter of a mile. I'd ride down after school and get the mail. So I'd say the Pasquina store was one of the favorites. Can you remember your first automobile? Yeah, we had a Model T. Did you ever see a picture of a Model T? You want to see one?
I've seen one, yeah.
Yeah, you want to see a picture?
I've seen the real one.
You've seen one? Should I show them a picture of the Model?
Sure, go ahead,
I
yeah.
guess we got time, huh? It's not very good. It's not. What, do you got a question?
Yeah. They had,
Huh?
they had a engine.
You have to speak up. He has a little bit of trouble hearing sometimes. You have to talk a little.
Huh?
Did you have an engine?
Oh, it had an engine in it. Yeah. It had a motor, is that what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, 4-cylinder motor, little one. You probably remember them.
Oh, I sure do, yeah. I remember him real well, yeah.
Can you take, what'd you do, take a picture?
I took a picture of it, yeah, yeah. Sometimes it was hard to go up hills in them out there in the mountains, so you'd have to back up the hill because they could back up hills, but a lot of times they couldn't go up hills.
Right.
So,
We used to have to do that once in a while. If the hill was a little steep, we'd have to turn around and back up.
you imagine that?
Who was the most interesting person you knew when you were young? Well, I'd say my folks were, because they told me what I had to do in life and had to work, tell me what to do about everything, and the animals and all the things that were going on, the neighbors, who they were and how they lived. And so I said my folks were. Can you tell us any interesting stories about the area? Now, I don't know if they mean that area. Do you have any questions?
Somebody must have a question, don't you? Huh?
What kind of work did you do as a grown-up? Well, I drove a bulldozer. You all know what a bulldozer was. Well, I worked on a ranch for the first 15, 20 years, and I drove a bulldozer in the mountains and logging. Did you ever see Orland or visit the Opera House? No, I never did. Did any of you kids ever go to the Opera House?
I wasn't born. Probably. They tore it down or something.
I never knew they had one, so I know this question.
Yeah, it's gone now, isn't it? Huh? Yeah. Uh-huh.
Did you have any pets on the farm? Yes, I had quite a few pets, the dogs, and you'd have lamb pets. You've still had lambs, haven't you?
Yeah.
With a bottle, and calf, and horses. Yeah, I had quite a few pets. Do you have any favorite artifacts? Well, I had some old guns, but I thought I would not bring them. You kids might shoot me. That's the last question. If you got any questions, well, that's all. If they had, okay.
Is your house, your house that you used to live in still standing?
Do you know what he said?
Is your house that you lived in still standing?
No, but I have a picture of it.
Oh, show them the picture. That'd be great. Yeah. Yeah.
Here's the house that's the house I was born in. 81 years ago.
It looks like a real house.
That was pretty good for those days. It was built in 1886.
Wow.
You want a picture? Am I close enough?
Yeah, you're fine. Yeah, yeah.
You got it.
I got it. Yeah.
Yeah, I was born in that house.
How many rooms did it have?
It had 3 bedrooms and a big living room and a big kitchen and a little. It had a big dining room and front room, and then the kitchen was little off. So I guess it was 3, 4, 5, 6 rooms.
Here's another question. Yeah, this young man has a question to ask you there.
Okay.
Did you have any brothers or sisters?
Yeah, I had 1 brother, 3 sisters. I have a brother younger than me.
We have another question right next to them there.
Do you have to go to the bathroom in a little night house?
Bathroom?
Yeah.
There's no inside bathrooms in the school. When I went to school, the bathrooms were all outside. No water. We had to go to the neighbors and draw water out of the well with a pulley and a rope and carry it back over to school. There was no well on it. It was just one little schoolhouse.
A room about this size in here, huh?
Yeah, just about
About like this, yeah.
With a stove in the middle and then desk all.
Were all of the grades in that school, first grade all the way up?
Grades in the same room.
Yeah.
That was crowded.
It was crowded, yeah. You can't believe that, can you? Got another question over here, yeah.
Okay.
Was there a lot of kids in the schoolhouse?
What'd he say?
Were there a lot of kids in the schoolroom?
Well, I'll show you a picture of the school.
In those days, they had all of the grades in one room. First grade
First grade.
all the way up. Yeah.
This one's me. There was a little school. There was 7 of us started that year.
Which one in the picture?
This was a school. That was everybody, Indians and all.
Which one is you in that picture?
No, the next one. This one here is me right there.
Oh, that's how you do that one. This is the second.
That was when I was in the first grade.
Which one's this one?
How many kids were in that class?
Well,
How many were in there? Count them.
that's me there.
8.
8 in the class, huh? Okay.
That's me.
Yeah.
Can you see the Indian kids there? Well, that's an Indian. That's an Indian. That's an Indian.
That's an Indian.
Mm-hmm. This an Indian. This an
Here's all the names.
Can you read that? Read it though. That was an Indian girl there.
This was a long time ago.
Can you take a picture of that?
Mm-hmm.
Am I close enough?
I'll get closer.
Get closer?
Oh, I can get closer with my camera. Okay, very good, yeah.
That's Pascal up in
Yeah.
school. See, you can see the end. That's all, that was all of us that year. What, 32?
32, okay, yeah. There were 32 in the class at one time, in that one room. Just like today, except they were first graders all the way up.
Yeah, everybody was in the same room. We didn't learn anything, we had a good time.
You got another question over here.
Okay.
Can I go drink water?
What was that?
Can I go drink water?
Sure, you can have a drink of water.
Yeah. Gonna drink my water?
No, he's going to drink the water over at the sink there.
Huh? Yeah, the schoolhouse is still standing in Pascal.
Wow.
The side of it there, I have a picture. See, they just moved it and built another one, and this is the third one. They've got the third one's there now since I went to school.
John A. Bedford, Barrel or something.
Burnell?
Burnell or something. On the name.
Nomalaki Indian Reservation. There was a reservation, a Nomalaki Indian reservation in Pascal. It was 25,000 acres.
1919.
That-
Where did they move that reservation?
They abandoned it and took the Indians over the mountain,
Mm-hmm.
and then sold it to the white settlers.
Mm-hmm.
But they started another one just above Pascal, a small one, in the 1920s, and there was about 60 people there until 1959. They all had to leave Pascal to come to the valley here to find work.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
So in 1959 they closed that one down.
Did you guys have any kind of instrument?
Did you get it?
Instruments? For band music, you mean? Do you have any, play any instruments, musical instruments?
Did I?
No, did the kids get to play them?
Well, I remember there was a drum.
A drum, yeah,
I
okay.
remember they had a drum in school, but I don't think as far as I remember, there wasn't any. What's his?
A drum like that one over there? On the corner?
Oh, it wasn't quite that big. It was I remember it being on a stand. It wasn't quite that big and a little thicker. Somewhat like that.
Is that you
Me?
or are you?
No, that's me in the back.
Did you get to eat at school?
You get to eat? No, you took it with you. You took your lunch with you from home. You put it on the back of your saddle on the horse. The time you got there, it was all shook up.
Mashed up, he means, yeah.
If you run, the more you run, he had it in a sack, behind the saddle, and it was all shaped. What's yours?
Do you have any recess?
Anyone?
Recess.
Break.
Do you have a break?
Huh?
A recess.
Oh,
School recess, yeah.
Every hour you get 10 minutes. Is that what you do?
No, we get half
A
hour.
half hour every hour.
You get a half hour once in the morning and once after lunch, right? Yeah. That's all.
10 minutes every hour.
Every hour they got 10 minutes.
We went to school at 9 o'clock and went to noon and got 3 10-minute recess, and then an hour at noon, and then stayed till 4 o'clock. If you got to watching the clock, the teacher would make you stay after school. About 1 or 2 minutes to 4, it's almost, you'd tell her it's 4, then she'd make you stay after school.
Yeah.
When did you go to school? When did you get out of school? What time?
Where'd I go after?
When did you go to school? When did you get out?
9 to 4.
No, what years?
Oh, what year?
Yeah.
I started in 1925. Got out in 33. That says first grade of 1925. You see that?
That's the year after this picture.
This one was taken in 1932. I got out the next year.
Oh, those pictures are old. Real old.
They are old.
That's why I laminated them.
Creek. It's a big, you've seen it, haven't you?
I've been there, yeah.
Like
Yeah.
a big circle?
Yeah, it's a big circle. It's about as big as this room this way. It's round like this. And you go, when you go in, you go there and you sit along there. All this here space is just, they might have corn stalks or sedan grass or something you can sit on here. It's kind of green. You sit here, you just sit on the ground. It's all dirt. And they put a fire in the middle, and they dance. They have a, over here there's 4 or 5 of them. They have, one of them has a round stick, like a pole, and he stands there and he beats on a drum-looking thing. It's not a drum like that. It's more of a hollow, it looks much like a hollow piece of wood or something. And he beats on that, and he just beats on that, keeps time with every time they dance, you know, he beats on that, and they keep time with his beating on that drum, and they go round and around this fire. They go round and around there for a couple of minutes, and then they stop for a little while, and then they start in again, and they just go on doing that different things the whole time you're in there. We went. Did you get to go inside when
We went in for one of the dance ceremonies. We went in and they were dancing, and we watched it. Yeah.
We went.
Yeah.
We half at a time went in.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I got permission. They said in Willows that I couldn't get permission to go in there, but when I went out and talked to them, I knew some of them before, and they found out I was a Bedford. We went to school with a Bedford.
So it was okay. Yeah, that's great.
That was pretty good.
You've got another question down there.
Are you in any of these pictures?
No, I'm not that old. I'm not quite that old. When he graduated from school, I was born.
Is that right?
I was born in 1925.
You
Yeah.
born in 25?
Yeah.
The year I started.
Yeah.
I was born in 1990.
Well, you're older than him.
Yes.
Sounds like
Yeah.
that. Huh?
How old are you?
How old are you?
81.
I'm
81. I was
yeah.
81 last January.
I'm 75.
I was born January 19th, 1919. I was 81 last January. The 19th.
19?
Don't seem like it, but time goes by too fast. You guys will be that old before you know it.
It's true.
You better
Yeah.
play while you can.
They do, I know.
You got any other questions?
Anything else you'd like to know?
Well, I'll show you. You want to see a picture of the Indians dancing?
Yeah.
To find it, I got thousands of pictures. I'll show you. You want to see my bow? Pass it around.
See a big bull?
Yeah.
Wow, that is a big bull.
It weighs over a ton.
A ton. 2,000 pounds.
John Bedford and Big Jim, 1997.
Hey.
It's awful gentle.
Do you still have them?
Yeah. I feed him every day out in the barn.
It's a Brahma.
He's a Bremer.
Never seen that.
Brahma.
That's huge, isn't it? Huh? Yeah.
Here's the Indians dancing.
Is this for real?
Huh?
Is this for real?
That's real.
I do.
When you get to Pass Canada, the sign will open. Here's me and the Indians. This is the Indians in Covelo. You've heard of Covelo.
Isn't that where the Indians went, to Covelo? They all moved over there to a reservation.
Did you get a picture of the bull?
Hey, okay, I got it now.
You have now.
Yeah, that's a great bull. No, I've seen that sign before. Thank you. You guys will have to get your parents to take you out there and look at these places. because there's a lot of fun.
Yeah, there's a, this here, that was me going to school, starting school one morning.
Don't come back quiet.
This is jail in Pasquina. This is a monument at the head of the Indian reservation. That's a monument that's there today.
Yeah. Mr. Bedford?
These Indians dance maybe every 2 years. They do this.
Is it a rain dance? What is
Well,
it?
you call it, well, they have a reason for it.
Oh, okay.
Religion.
Yeah.
Reason.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You see it? Anybody like guns?
That's pretty good, isn't it? Huh? Yeah.
That was made in 1894.
How old are you on
Excuse me?
this? How old are you?
That was made
How old were you in it?
11 or 12, something like that now.
In your mind, huh?
Yeah. I was going to school that morning.
What are your brothers and sisters' names?
You asked,
What was the question?
What were your brother and sister's name?
Brothers and sisters' names.
my brother's named Leland, and I had a sister Leola, and a sister Lena, and a sister Mary.
Wow. A lot of sisters.
This is the Indian, one head of the Indians today. That's, he lives down at William.
William.
He's
Huh?
a Ramalaki.
He's the head chief now.
Everett Freeman, maybe you've heard of him.
No, I don't know him.
He
No.
goes back to Washington D.C. and Vegas all. Well, he's one of them that's trying to get land for the Indians back. Did you see that? That's when I was 11 or 12 years old from school.
That's a great looking horse.
He's an Indian nice horse. My granddad got him.
Yeah, that's
My
great.
granddad had lots of horses.
Is that building still standing?
That's still there today. It's the jail in Pasquina.
Yeah, I've seen that one. Yeah.
This is out in the hill. That's all that's left there today. There was a fort there, 100-foot square, and it had 4-foot walls, 10-foot high. That the soldiers lived in it when the Indians were there. They tried to learn the Indians, the white man's way of life, but the Indians didn't want to learn. Here's a school that was out there. It was a one-room school. My grandmother went to that one in 1872.
She went to school in 1872, huh? Wow.
Yeah, she went to school there. Her dad was the teacher. He came in 59, I think.
Huh.
And he had one of the big stores in Pasquina after he taught school. They had a big store in Pasquina. When he got the store on Scribner, you've heard of Scribner.
Mm-hmm.
He had a partner, Scribner. They made a 2-story, and they had the optional lodge upstairs. In 1925, December, it burnt after lodge one night. Somebody
It burned down.
yeah, it burned down. I remember the night I was probably like him. What's yours? At school? That was at Pasquina. They called it the Coast Range. It was the Coast Range Mountain to the right. Can you read it? What grade are you in?
Fourth.
Huh?
They're all fourth graders.
Fourth grader.
Yeah.
Can you read that?
Read what?
Can you read what it says?
Right out loud?
What's it say? Yeah, read it out, big loud.
The first Coast Range School was the first school established in the
Kenta?
area in 1869.
Hey,
Located 5 miles north of Pasquinta in what was known as Nevada Bottom. Many years later, they moved it 1.5 miles southeast of the Harris Place part of the Robinson Ranch where the Bedfords lived. Mary Mornington Robinson, John Bedford's grandmother, went to school here in 1872. Her father, Sam Corrington, was the teacher. He also taught in Newville in the 1800s.
That was a one
Great,
room.
yeah. One-room school.
One room school.
Have you kids been to the fair? You see the Chrome School out there? That's the same size school, yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah.
They moved the one from Chrome over there.
Pardon? No, it's the same size school. Most of the schools at that time were about that size, yeah.
All about
Uh-huh.
the same
Yeah.
size.
Yeah. It's kind of fun in there, isn't it? Yeah. Those desks are just like the kind of desks they had there, you know. Used to sit there, they give you a little ink in a bottle, and you'd put it in your desk, and you had to use a quill pen to write with.
Yeah, they had an ink up there.
Yeah. For the ink bottle, yeah.
You dipped it in.
That's what my desk is. It has a little ink hole.
It does? Okay, yeah. And if a girl sat in front of you with pigtails, you used to take her pigtails in the ink.
You've already, would it show up?
Oh, everything shows up here, yeah, yeah. That's a great picture, yeah.
Yeah, I got pictures of, they was, in the area up there, they was probably 11 or 12 one-room schools around maybe 3-4 miles apart. I have pictures of all of them, of the old schools. Some of them are no paint, they're just,
Yeah.
they're just
Hmm.
terrible. This was painted.
Well, it looks like we're over, guys.
Here, part of them, in the gold rush days, my great-grandfather Burroughs was coming across through Humboldt County, Nevada, when they met a party of Mormons headed back to Salt Lake City, and they told him that gold had been discovered in California. My great-grandfather Burroughs wasn't, he was just a boy then, and he didn't, they wasn't interested in the gold. They were moving to California because they thought it was a better climate. His mother had been very ill, and they decided they come out of Indiana and that country at the time, and I think they left, I don't know, St. Joe or someplace, and came across on the Donner Trail. And when the Donner Party had died the year before, and they laid over a day to bury some of the things that hadn't gotten buried from the Donner Party. You kids all have studied about the Donner Party.
Yeah, we read about it.
Yeah. And of course they came, it says how they come, they get, they are bringing me a
You
drink.
gotta get a drink, too.
I have. But that would have been my great-grandfather Burroughs. Now, my great-grandfather Millsaps, he came into Sutter's Fort to start with, but and I think maybe my grandfather might have been born in Sutter's Fort before they moved on up into the valley where I'm from now. See, I'm the fourth generation there, and some of the land that we live on was never taken up by any white people. The Indians were there before, and of course the Indians they had their ways, but they were very crude ways, and they worked for my great grandfather and with the two great grandfathers that I had there, and they prospered and came along, and they're about where they've gotten today. Now, my grandfather on my mother's side came from Finland. He came ashore at San Francisco. He left Finland when he was 15 years old and sailed on sailing vessels. He never sailed under any power but wind power. They didn't use, he never was on a steam vessel. It was always the full riggers that he sailed on. But he came ashore at San Francisco. And the first job he had coming up the Sacramento Valley was herding ducks and geese off the grain. And we talked about, over there they asked him questions about Dr. Glenn, and he was probably herding for Dr. Glenn or somebody along there, but that was his first job. And then he came out to the foothills and settled in. He was a little bit later, and he didn't have such a good piece of property. His piece of property was right up against the mountain, and it was covered by chamise brush. And they had to chop and clean out the chamise brush so that they could plant a little grain. And the reason they planted a little bit of grain, they traveled by horsepower. And grain hay was the fuel for your horses. So if you had horses, you had to have some hay. So and you're going to make it, you had to have a place to raise that hay.
Just like a gas station.
So, yeah. And they asked me, is the original farm and building still intact? Now, a house, I don't think it was the first house that my great-grandfather had, but there's a house still standing out in our valley there that belonged to my great-grandfather. And it's over about a mile and a fraction this side of Chrome. It's on the south side of the road there. You might know where.
I know where it is, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That house, I don't know how many, it's well over 100 years
Yeah.
old, you know. Of course, now our family, you see, has been here in the country here 150 years. Although my great-grandfather Burroughs, when he got here, he was, they lived, I think his stepfather had a hotel, or an inn as they call it, you know, and they were doing all right, and then he got the smallpox and died. Or he died from something. Maybe he didn't die of smallpox, but his mother and his sister died of smallpox. And he went back to Massachusetts, came back again, crossed the Isthmus of Panama, rode a mule, got on another ship, went to Portland, Oregon. He came ashore there and came down in by the Tualatin Plains, which is this side of Portland, and he married my great-grandmother there. And he took up a place, he wrote in his autobiography, my ranch in Oregon is where Oakland, Oregon now stands. He took that land up, and then he just wanted to come back to California because he'd looked at California, and he had down by Sacramento, and he came back down and went, and that was around 1860. But I think my great-grandfather Millsaps was out there before, because he had a better piece of ground and a lot larger piece of ground. So I'm not really sure on the dates there. It's I'm sure it's written down someplace, but I haven't studied it that much. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, and then you want to know if you use horses or mules. Now, my dad farmed with horses and mules, mostly mules. when I was a boy there, and he raised hogs, and we raised turkeys, and we had cattle, and we had some sheep. And most of the farms out there had several different kinds of animals. And they asked me over there if I had a favorite animal. I said I probably did. I learned to ride on a mule. My dad only gave me a bridle. He said, there's nothing else on that mule. Because if you fall off, you're gonna fall clean, and you won't be drugged. But he said, I'm not gonna let you have a saddle until you're bigger and you can take care of it. So I hit the ground a lot of times. That old mule, he'd be galloping along, you know, and the old ears would go like it, and I'd be there, just like that. And I learned to tip my toes in right behind his shoulders and sit right up there. I was just like a little monkey, you know. He didn't move too fast anyway. And when I got a little bit bigger and older, why, then I got to ride a good horse. Here's a good old horse to ask a question.
I have a mule.
You have a mule, huh? Pretty good mule, is he?
Yeah.
Mules are pretty tricky, aren't they, huh?
What's his name? You don't have a name for your mule? You better get everybody in school to have a name for your mule.
My mule's name was Old Pete.
Old Pete.
Yeah. He wasn't too big a mule, and you should see me get on that mule. They're pretty slick. He was roach slick, you know, no mane. That's the way they roach mules up clean. And I could get under his neck. He'd stand. He was real gentle. I'd stand. He'd stand. I'd reach up under his neck like this, and then I'd swing around and I'd come up over his shoulder and come up over his neck, and I could sit on him. And he was old, but like I say, I could get him a galloping along. My grandmother bought me a quirt so I could go a little faster, you know, and you know what a quirt is. It's kind of a little whip, and I'd get him a going along, and then when he'd see something, I'd be on. And I rode barefooted. I was barefooted, and in the summertime I had no shirt. All I had was a pair of jeans. I was like a wild man when I was little. When the first day of school I wasn't telling these guys about the barefooted. No. The first day of school, then when we showed up in the fall of the year, all the kids were barefooted. The only person that had shoes on was the teacher. Us kids had went barefooted all summer long, and our feet were just as tough as leather. I could walk right through rocks, and it never bothered me a bit. But and then wore shoes in the winter when it got cold and wet, and then the spring of the year, when the weather got warm, everybody took their shoes off. It was a great time to take the shoes off. And then, of course, we had some little creeks up there, and when we got a chance, we could go swimming, and we'd have a good time.
You have another question there, I think.
How old are you?
How old are you?
Well, I over there, I said I was born February 1st, 1923. How old would that make me now? Anybody good with arithmetic?
81,
No, you're close.
84,
No.
I can tell you.
Figure from 100. Take 23 from 100 and figure how.
65,
No.
77.
Right on. We got a mathematician.
Yeah, we have. Good for you. Yeah. He's 2 years older than I am.
Oh, that's all?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a kid. I'm just a kid. Yeah.
I can't hear very good.
Is Noel the one that you used to ride on still standing?
is your mule still alive?
No.
He's gone a long time. Yeah.
Mules live a long time, but he was old when I was 8 years old.
How long do mules live?
Oh, they'll live to be 30 years old.
30 years old, huh?
Yeah, they'll-
How old is your mule? Oh, you don't know. You ought to ask him when you go home. Ask him, hey, how old are you, mule?
Yeah, the time's don't run out here on it. You see, this belonged to, I think this belonged to my great-grandfather. His name was, well, I didn't show you guys this. No, I did.
No.
His name was George Washington Millsaps. Imagine that. But anyway, and the initials on here are GM. Now, this is the thing. You see the lumber when it came out of the old mills. My great uncle had a sawmill up by Alder Springs. But when the lumber came out of the mills, it was all rough. If you wanted smooth lumber, you had to smooth it. And this was a plane. Now don't cut your fingers on that because that's kind of sharp. Well, not too bad, but this was a plane. You've probably seen people plane a board with a hand plane, a metal one.
Oh, it's to take little carve pieces.
A little bit of the wood off of the top, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
make it smooth, you know.
Yeah.
Well, this is what it's got a piece of metal there, and it's got a little chunk of wood up there. You push the metal down as far as you want, as deep as you want to make the cut, and then you hammer that down in there. See, yeah, that's the metal. That's the blade.
So what does the GM stand for on
George Washington.
George Millsaps.
George Millsaps, yeah. That's all right, Cody.
Now here's a textbook, like I learned to read in. You might have seen them. Like
I've seen those before,
I
yeah.
got that out of kind of an old second-hand store over in Upper Lake.
Wow. Is that was the only book they had, wasn't it?
Yeah,
And the
my-
teacher taught everything else, yeah.
See the old,
Pam.
it's all about the gingerbread boy and the little red hen and the old woman and the pig. It's
Let them take a look at that. They'd love that,
you
yeah.
bet.
Yeah.
That's it wasn't it seemed like kind of dry old reading, kind of studying that out.
What year was this book made?
Well, inside there it says 1910. It's in the 1910s or 15s.
It says 1901, but it doesn't say it started when. It's probably 1910.
Yeah, after 1910.
Down here it says 1921.
1921, huh? Yeah,
That was it
yeah.
then. One place there says 1901. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it says here, where did you go to school? And you ever see the Chrome School that's over in the fairgrounds? You ever see the Chrome School over there?
Yeah.
I went 8 years in that school. 8 years. I started there when I was
We talked about the Chrome School when, just a little while ago, and they've all seen it, yeah.
yeah. No, they were going to tear that down. They were going to sell it, tear it down. And that's when I went and I went to the meeting. I had been on the Unified School Board at that time. But I said, I understand you're wanting to get rid of the Chrome School, and I said, I'll tell you how I feel about these one-room country schools. They're kind of like Model T Fords. I see them junk a lot of Model T Fords, but they don't do that anymore.
No.
And I feel the same
They shouldn't
way
do a
about-
thing with the school, yeah.
So anyway, Ray Lyons, we got it saved in Ray Lyons. He made the arrangements and get it over here.
My wife is the one that runs it.
Oh, is she?
But, yeah, Sally McGordon runs it, yeah.
Oh, be done.
She used to be a teacher here. She taught school here for 35 years. Yeah. Yeah. And her father was a school person. He was C.K. Price, the one they named the other school after. So,
that was your father-in-law?
yeah, my father-in-law, yeah.
Be done.
Yeah.
How old's your wife?
You had to ask me. She is 68. Yeah. Just a kid. Yeah.
Did you go to school with my wife?
No, I didn't go to school here.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. I went to high school here after I got out of the Army.
I see.
And I taught in the high school here in Orland. I was the art teacher for a year here.
I see.
And then I'm a college professor. I went on to Chico and taught college over there for 35 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, well, my wife, she went to most of her high school days here. Did you know her, Lou Ann Levine? You remember
Yeah.
Levine?
Yeah, I remember Levine, yeah. Yeah.
I graduated from the Elk Creek High School, if you know where that is. Well, we're just having fun, and they're going to run us out of here, huh? Here comes Lou Ann again.
Yeah.
That's my wife's name.
That's right, that's his wife's name, yeah. All right.
He'll know me forever now. Okay, our next.
September the 24th, 1915. Now, how old do you think I am?
72 years old?
That was the last speaker.
78.
A little older than that. September 24th, 1915. I'm getting old.
80?
80,
85?
84. She's actually got it just about right. 84, it's falling down.
You said
September the 4th, out on a little place out in Capay, out there east of town. Capay, you ever know where Capay is? Capay?
I do,
Yeah, where?
but I don't know that.
Out in the farming community. And that's where I went to school out there, at the little school they called Macintosh. And they used to have a school up on Wild Road. There was a little school there, and it was real small. That was in about 16 or 17, I hear. And my dad moved that one of the bedroom school up to Macintosh. And then they built 3 more rooms on it there. And that's where I went to school there in Macintosh, the Macintosh School. And they had, in the school, they had the first, second, and third in one room. A teacher taught the 3 grades. And then they had the 4th, 5th, and 6th in another room, and one teacher taught all those grades. And then on the 7th and 8th, one teacher taught the 2 grades, you see, and that's how they taught it. Our teacher taught 3 grades there. And we had a teacher when I was in the 1st grade. They called her, her name is Gertrude Sullivan. She's a person nice, but she always had a button on top of her hair here, big button. And we used to have those little cards, A, B, C, since I don't think you have those anymore. Little brown cards, A, B, C, D, C, and all that there. And one time, I was in school with nothing to do. I took a card like that and I snapped it. And it landed right on her desk, you know. And Mr. Gerson says, somebody come up there and says, put your hand on the desk. She took a rule, bam, she hit me with another rule. And she lets you know she had control of that classroom in there. And then I went all through the grades there, first all through there, and then didn't have much to do there. And then during the Depression there was much work. I worked here and worked a little bit here and there. I was making 15 cents an hour. 15, you know how much that is? That's not very much money. What they're making now is about 12 to 14 to $15. I'm making 15 cents an hour. I didn't have much to do there, so I thought nothing to do, so I joined the Army. I went to the Army. And I went into the Presidio of San Francisco in 1937. I went in there, and then when they were having what they call a drill down there, they were trying to pick a crack drill team, you know, for the rifles, you put the rifles on, you spin the rifles, you do this, and they do a lot of marching and stuff. We had a drill down there with 1,000-some people in Presidio. And they drill down, and once you make a little mistake, they throw you out. They drill down, they make a throw. So there's 80 of us got picked for what they call a craft drill team. And we were sent to San Diego at the fair. There were a world exhibition, and we put on exhibitions there for all the diplomatics and people coming in from all over the world, and we put on shows over there. And we had to go through 100-some movements without a command. We just playing the band, and that's how we. And then after the war, after that there, I come home. I got discharged in 1930, late 39. I got discharged from the Army. And then I went to work at the gold mines in Orville. I worked up the gold mines up there. And then World War II broke out. And so I joined up again. In late 41, I signed up again. So I went in the Air Force. Then I went in, I was in there about 4 or 5 months, what they call unassigned. And so I finally got sent to a school to be a crew chief on a B-29 plane. You know, the big bomber planes? I was on that. But I never got to be a crew chief on a B-29. I was transferred to C-47, cargo plane. And I was a crew chief on a C. What's the job of a crew chief on an airplane? What does he do? A crew chief, what's the thing that say? I'm a crew chief of a C-47 airplane. See, that airplane can't fly unless
Someone controls it.
unless I sign it off. See, I'm in charge of that plane. Anything wrong with the crew chief, he'd red line it, and the pilots can't take it off. So the crew chief, he's in charge of the plane and sees that it's safe to fly, to take off, and everything. He is in charge. The pilots are not in charge. The crew chief is in charge of that plane, because the plane cannot leave the ground unless the crew chief signs it off. The pilots can't take it off. So I was the crew chief until after the war. And then after the war, about I got discharged in early 1946. And then I got a job at the garage for a while in Orland here. And then the job come up to work at the school to take care of the buses. So I applied, and another person applied for the job. And that was, I got the job because I was in the service and he wasn't, so I got the job. And I stayed, and so I got the job to maintain the buses and drive. I drove bus for almost a little over 36 years. I drove bus. You know, I was the bus driver. You know, I was. You kids drive bus now? You ride the bus?
Yeah, we're riding the bus. We don't drive them.
No.
You know, driving, Cody, huh?
And I had 11 buses. I always had one spare one. They were all mostly all gas, and now they're all diesel. So when I first got there, I got the title of bus mechanic and driver. That was my title, bus mechanic and driver. And then it went on for a few years, and then later on they had when I first got there, they had what they call a community cannery up there. The canned food, you know, the people bring in their food and we canned it. That was during the wars. People didn't have money to buy food, and so any food you had, string beans, peaches, or meat, or chicken, or we brought it in. I canned it for them. I canned it. I'd done that for about 10 or 12 years. I canned the food there. And drove bus too, and drove bus. And later on, they gave me the title of 4 o'clock, and I went to work from 5 in the morning till 5 at night. I worked 12 hours a day there for 30-some years, 5 in the morning till 5 at night. I never did put in 1 hour of overtime, all the time I worked there. And I drove bus to San Francisco, I drove bus to Oakland, Sacramento, Oregon, all over the country. I might have driving, you know. Never had a wreck. Yeah. Oh, it's something else. Yeah, when I went to school, get back at the school, there wasn't such a thing as school buses. You know how we got to school?
Horses?
We had to walk over 2 miles to school every day. We walked it 2 miles. And if it was just a little drizzly rain or something like that, a lot of times it was raining real hard, we didn't go to school. We didn't have no way to get there. We stayed home.